Julian Assange is facing extradition to the United States and up to 5 years in prison after he was forcibly dragged from the Ecuadorian embassy in London on Thursday, bringing an extraordinary 7-year diplomatic stalemate to an end. Assange, an Australian citizen, will receive consular assistance on Friday but won't be given any special treatment, the country's Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, said. The country's Foreign Affairs Minister, Marise Payne, said officials had been advised that Britain would not agree to extradition if an individual would face the death penalty. Australia is completely opposed to the death penalty and that is a bipartisan position, she said. The matter for the extradition itself is one between the United States and the United Kingdom. After 2,487 days in the embassy, the 47-year-old was arrested after Ecuador revoked his political asylum and invited Metropolitan Police officers inside their Knightsbridge premises, where he has stayed since 2012 to avoid extradition to Sweden over UL assault allegations which Assange has always denied. Later on Thursday, he was found guilty of failing to surrender to the court and faces up to 12 months in a British prison. BBC Newsnight. At Newsnight, Julian Assange's lawyer, Jennifer Robinson, says his arrest today is a free speech issue because it is all about the ways in which journalists can communicate with their sources. #Newsnight, at suageneris.twitter.com/Zimgjft April 11, 2019 Timeline June 2010, October 2010 WikiLeaks releases about 470,000 classified military documents concerning American diplomacy and the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. It later releases a further tranche of more than 250,000 classified U.S. diplomatic cables. November 2010 A Swedish prosecutor issues a European arrest warrant for Assange over UL assault allegations involving 2 Swedish women. Assange denies the claims. February 2011 A British judge rules that Assange can be extradited to Sweden. Assange fears Sweden will hand him over to U.S. authorities who could prosecute him. February 2016 The UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention says Assange has been arbitrarily detained and should be able to claim compensation from Britain and Sweden. Britain and Sweden rebuff the non-binding ruling. November 2016 Assange is questioned in a 2-day interview over the allegations at the Ecuadorian embassy by Swedish authorities. March 2017 Nigel Farage is spotted visiting the Ecuadorian embassy. January 2018 Britain refuses Ecuador's request to accord Assange diplomatic status, which would allow him to leave the embassy without being arrested. April 11, 2019 Police arrest Assange at the embassy after his asylum was withdrawn. Scotland Yard confirmed that Assange was arrested on behalf of the US after receiving a request for his extradition. Assange has been charged by the US with a federal charge of conspiracy to commit computer intrusion for agreeing to break a password to a classified US government computer. Thank you for your feedback. At a central London police station, Assange was further arrested at the request of the US seeking his extradition over allegations he conspired with former US military analyst Chelsea Manning to download classified databases in what the US Justice Department called one of the largest compromises of classified information in the history of the United States. The arrest provoked a fierce debate over Assange's future and possible extradition. While the government defended the arrest over breaching bail as evidence that no one is above the law, labor and civil liberties groups condemned the U.S. extradition request. Assange's lawyer, Jennifer Robinson, told the BBC's Newsnight programme her client's arrest set a dangerous precedent that should concern free speech advocates. In the US, Donald Trump said, "I know nothing about WikiLeaks," adding, "It's not my thing." In the final month of the 2016 election, Trump mentioned WikiLeaks 164 times. His opponent in that election, Hillary Clinton, said the WikiLeaks founder needs to answer for what he has done. How Donald Trump spoke about WikiLeaks during 2016 presidential campaign. Video report. Jeremy Corbyn tweeted the extradition of Julian Assange to the U.S. for exposing evidence of atrocities in Iraq and Afghanistan should be opposed by the British government. Freedom of speech advocates including U.S. whistleblower Edward Snowden said that an extradition over the leaks constituted a risk to press freedom. Meanwhile, as others argued that the U.S. charges should be considered separately to the Swedish allegations, prosecutors in Stockholm said that his arrest was news to us. Events moved at pace as Assange later appeared at Westminster Magistrates Court to deny failing to surrender to court, finding him guilty. District Judge Michael Snow said his behavior was the behavior of a narcissist who cannot get beyond his own selfish interest. He faces up to 12 months in jail when sentenced, and will face a separate extradition hearing via video link on 2 May. The U.S. accuses Assange of conspiracy to commit computer intrusion, alleging that he assisted Manning in a password to help her infiltrate Pentagon computers and download material to share with WikiLeaks. If convicted, Assange faces a maximum sentence of 5 years. Dramatic footage showed him handcuffed, heavily bearded and with his hair tied back, gesticulating and shouting "UK must resist" as plainclothes officers carried him from the embassy shortly after 10 a.m. to a waiting police van. He was clutching what appeared to be a copy of Gore Vidal's History of the National Security State. One Assange supporter, who witnessed the arrest, said, "There were at least 6 men dragging Julian out and more uniformed police standing by. Julian was talking but he was bundled into a van. He looked dazed." Assange in a police van after he was arrested by British police. Photograph. Henry Nichols / Reuters. Westminster Magistrates Court heard that when police arrived inside the embassy, Assange barged past them in an attempt to return to his private room. He had to be restrained after resisting arrest and claiming this is unlawful. Judge Michael Snow was highly scathing of Assange, saying his behavior is that of a narcissist who cannot get beyond his own selfish interests. Outside court, Robinson said they had warned since 2010 that Assange would face extradition to the U.S. "Unfortunately, today we have been proved right." She said Assange thanked his supporters, and had said, "I told you so." Assange was initially arrested for failing to surrender to the court after losing an appeal against extradition to Sweden, where he faced 2 separate 2010 assault allegations. Elizabeth Mossy Fritz, lawyer for one of the 2 women accusers, said they would seek to get the Swedish police investigation reopened so that Assange can be extradited to Sweden and prosecuted for rape. One of the women told The Guardian she would be very surprised and sad if Assange was extradited to the U.S. "For me this was never about anything else than his misconduct against me and other women," she said. Theresa May told MPs that she welcomed the arrest. "This goes to show that in the United Kingdom, no one is above the law." Downing Street said the Prime Minister and the government were aware in advance that Ecuador intended to revoke Assange's asylum status. A No. 10 spokeswoman said while there had been a dialogue with the Ecuadorian government from the start, the decision to revoke asylum was one for them entirely. Explaining the decision, Ecuador's President, Lenín Moreno, said, "In a sovereign decision Ecuador withdrew the asylum status to Julian Assange after his repeated violations to international conventions and daily life protocols." He accused Assange of interfering in the internal affairs of other countries, and added, "The patience of Ecuador has reached its limit." Q&A. An arrest warrant for Assange was issued in August 2010 for 2 separate UL assault allegations in Sweden. Police questioned him in Stockholm, where he denied the allegations. After returning to the UK, he feared that if he were extradited to Sweden he might be extradited on to the US, where he could face charges over WikiLeaks' publication of secret US government files. In December 2010 he appeared at an extradition hearing in the UK, where he was granted bail. Following a legal battle, the courts ruled Assange should be extradited to Sweden. The WikiLeaks founder entered the Ecuadorian embassy in August 2012. He was granted political asylum, and remained there until his arrest. In May 2017, Swedish authorities dropped their investigations. However, the British police warrant for his arrest for skipping bail still remained. Lawyers for Assange failed in January 2018 to have the warrant torn up, arguing it had lost its purpose and its function. Scotland Yard has confirmed that Assange was arrested on behalf of the US after receiving a request for his extradition, and the US has charged Assange with a federal charge of conspiracy to commit computer intrusion for agreeing to break a password to a classified US government computer. Jamie Grierson, Home Affairs correspondent. Thank you for your feedback. The Ecuadorian ambassador to the UK, Jamie Markin, said, "He was continually a problem to us, he was very disrespectful to the authorities. He has said that we were spying on him. He has said we were lying, we were agents of the United States." However, there was condemnation of the arrest from many quarters. Amnesty International UK said that if Sweden pursues extradition over UL assault allegations, then assurances should be made over not sending Assange to the US. There is a very real risk that he could face human rights violations due to his work with WikiLeaks, a spokesperson said. Ecuador's former president, Rafael Correa, accused his successor of being the greatest traitor in Ecuadorian and Latin American history. Snowden, the former U.S. government contractor wanted for leaking details of U.S. surveillance programs, called the arrest a dark moment for press freedom. Meanwhile, actor Pamela Anderson, one of a diverse range of public figures and celebrities to have visited Assange, tweeted that she was in shock, and accused the UK of being America's bitch and of seeking a diversion from your idiotic Brexit bullshit. Manning downloaded 4 databases from U.S. departments and agencies between January and May 2010, the indictment said, with the information provided to WikiLeaks.